those of you that have shown up and said, I'm really committed now, I want to be a trader, I'm going to do all the work I can every single day, aren't going to make it as traders. But, hey, how's it going, traders? I hope you're all very well. Now, if you've ever told yourself that you're finally ready to focus on trading, that you're going to do the work, that you're going to show up and just really focus on the act of trading, on following your rules right, on doing everything correctly, and that you're just going to lock in now, and then following that, ended up going through periods of drawdown, through losses, through revenge trading, or whatever other emotional thing showed up, right? There's a very clear reason behind that. And what's really interesting is that unlike any other space in the industry, if you don't know that this is something that shows up in trading and trading only, then you're going to consistently lose in the market. So the way I want you to think about this is I have a trade in front of you right now. This is a trade I'm personally in. Now, don't worry about the asset that I'm on right here. Don't worry about whether this is a stock or the time frame that it's on, because what I am doing and what you guys can do is applicable across anything. I've taught people over the last 4 years, and I've found people to be profitable 5-figure, 4-figure, 6-figure, 7-figure, even some in 8-figure, but a very minute, small amount. And I've watched people trade across every asset known to man. I've watched people trade across NQ, across NASDAQ through the market, across Israeli markets, across Indian markets, across FX pairs, foreign exchange pairs, across cryptos, shitcoins, right? Altcoins, shitcoins, everything, right? I've seen people trade absolutely everything. So don't worry too much about the name of the asset here or the time frame. The way that we've always taught within our team is to understand that we're not here to trade an asset or a time frame. We're here to trade specific contexts, which is exactly where this takes us, right? So if you take a look at this trade right here, it looks like a great trade. So far, it's working out very well. And who knows, maybe it ends up playing out really well as well. And if I go and look at a few trades that I've taken like over the last few weeks, you can see here's a trade that I took, started going really well. I think I even made a video about this, and then it ended up failing. All right, you guys can check out that video if you want. It's on my channel. There's other markets where if I just go to the market, so if I think about a market that I've kind of watched, you know, something like this, if I just go to the market, there are markets where I might have certain things analyzed, either to the upside or the downside. You might see one trade, so I took a trade back here. It's hard to see it, but I took a break-even trade inside of here, and since then have done nothing, okay? This is exactly where the important element of trading begins, right? Because a lot of us think that when we show up to trading, we are showing up to now work, right? Or for some of you, maybe you made that choice for yourself. That's it. I really want to become profitable. I'm ready to become profitable. I know my system. I know everything. So I'm just going to work and show up and do it right every single day. Now, unlike any other industry, trading fucking sucks. And it sucks because no matter how much willpower and passion and belief you have in yourself and your ability to do this, and no matter how many times you tell yourself you're going to work very hard, you're going to work, harder than the next person, like you've just decided, I'm going to work. No matter how many times you've told yourself that, or what level you told yourself you're going to work at, it's not going to matter in trading whatsoever. Because in trading, and trading a profitable system, an element of trading a profitable system clearly defines that you are going to have to wait for the entry to become present. The same way that when you look at this, you can see I took a break even here, followed by doing nothing other than analyzing the charts and nothing happening, followed by this move that I didn't trade, that I completely missed, analyzed the chart, did nothing, and had to deliver without me. In front of you, just this alone is about 35 days of action. If I go to another pair, something like Bitcoin, this is something I missed, and prior to that trade, just to make this really clear, I haven't touched Bitcoin for over half a year or even more. If I go over to the daily chart, so for me, I use a daily chart as well in my trading, and you guys can see a little note here that I made for my team a few weeks ago, so you guys can pay attention to that, and maybe you'll understand some aspects of trading or of following a trend. But if you look at this, right, I haven't taken a trade on crypto or considered a trade on crypto since around these points here, which means very simply up until the most recent action, there's been over 200 days, 2/3 of a year, that I simply had no opportunity to trade. Now, this is crazy because if you have a system fully figured out and you have a system that you can rely on and that you have the math behind it and everything makes sense, and if you don't know how to do any of that, check out some of my free videos or join up with the team. We go through it step by step by step. But if you have a system that fully makes sense and you understand everything, it doesn't matter how hard you promise yourself you're going to work or how much you show up to be passionate about trading and like really like you've just locked in to really do it. It's not going to matter, because at the end of the day, the trade is either available to be traded, right, or it's not. So what happens is you can have huge spans of time that no trades are to be taken. And what happens to a lot of traders is that if you decide at this random point right here, right, so let's just imagine this as time, and let's imagine this is an overall area where there just isn't a trade. So for some of you that, haven't really studied any of my material, think about it the simplest way. Let's say you have a really clear trend, everything's super clear. Maybe you got to follow this all the way back from the left and you made a ton of money on it. And then something like this happens where you realize like, okay, I can't really do anything. I have to wait before like a trend either starts to the downside or a trend starts to continue to the upside, right? Because in reality, and the way that I teach my team, it's like, the money you want to make is out of pockets of good action. So you want to make money inside of these areas. You want to make money inside of these areas because those areas define a very clear trend or a clear defining move. So let's assume we're inside of this kind of action where the action's more choppy, back and forth, moving up, moving down, like kind of all over the place. And let's assume this is also like 4 months of time on a given asset. This is important because as I like to teach people, if you attach yourself to one asset, I'm going to be a gold trader. Well, the reality is you're going to do well at certain points, and you're going to do completely shit in other points where the market isn't good or the context is complete shit, right? So when you attach yourself to one asset, let's assume this is one asset, whatever asset that is, right? Think of your favorite asset, NQ, NASDAQ, Bitcoin, right? Gold, Euro, US, it doesn't matter. Think about the asset that you love and think back to your own trading. And recognize or ask yourself this question. Were there periods of time where when you look back at your own system and the own entries that you could have taken, did you look at a period of time and say, holy shit, why was I ever trading here? None of this area made sense. This doesn't even align for the kind of environment that I would be willing to trade. And yet I still force things. Because we've all been through a period like that, right? Every single asset will go through periods or cycles, as I like to teach, that are untradeable or not good to trade. Now, let's assume on this given asset, whatever asset that is, there was a period of time that was untradeable or very, very bad, where basically every trade you take is going to be tiny profits or full losses or break-even trades. But most of the time when you trade sideways and crappy action and volatile action, no matter where you take a buy or sell, so if you imagine this line as a buy or a sell at any point in time, no matter where you take that buy or sell, no matter where you put a stop loss, the only thing that you stand to gain is extremely tiny profit. And the thing that you stand to lose is the entire risk multiple. So if you're risking minus 1% per trade, then every single trade here would be an example of a minus 1%. Right, so think back to your own trading and recognize or ask yourself and confirm to yourself if it's true that there have been periods of time on certain assets, so one asset at a time, where literally nothing could be done and you still did something, and as a result it ended up in more back and forth and shit, right? So maybe you traded during a period like this in your equity curve, maybe you didn't get a trade and then you got some trades and then you maybe went into some drawdown. And then if you had just traded this area next, then, your equity curves maybe does something like this. And now you're in huge profit. But instead, if you continued to trade and trade inside of this area here and just kept executing and kept executing and kept executing, then it's very likely that a lot of your equity curves experience something like this. Next trade, next trade, next trade, next trade. Maybe a break even here or here, maybe a tiny winner, but even then, like I said, can you really find a tiny winner inside of this? Maybe. For me personally, no. So that's why I avoid trading areas like that. Loss, 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 loss. And sometimes if you get crazy and you're like me and back in the day, if you're like me as I was back in the day and you get super emotional and fucking crazy and everything's not working, you start switching systems, you start trading like an idiot, and you go into even deeper drawdown, right? But in reality, if you're just trading and every day showing up to trade this kind of movement, and this is happening for 4 months, then you're likely going through a period that looks something like this. So the way I want you to think about this is the act, in this case right here in front of you, the act of, if we draw a line, let's make it red. If we draw a line right through this area here, right, the act of actually trading, so think about work, think about what I spoke before, you've decided to work, you're passionate, you're gonna fucking do it, right, you're gonna become a trader. The act of work, which is this right here, or the act of choosing to work and then to take things, even if that means taking it within a time period of 4 months on an asset that is completely unclear, then led to relentless and huge numbers, numerous losses that stacked and stacked and stacked. And when you look back, and then of course maybe you trade this area here, so maybe you go back to normal trading where you take some break evens, you take a win, maybe you take some losses, and then you take some wins, right? And then maybe you're back at break even. This is literally the life cycle of almost every trader that has not defined a process or a way to trade for themselves initially. All right, so I spoke a little bit about process in the last few videos. Feel free to check those out. Literally the video, like in the last 3 videos, I've spoken about process and why it's so important. Think qualifications. But what happens is most people that stay completely break-even traders do something along these lines. They make money when things are good. They lose a fuck ton of money when things are bad. They make money when things are good. And they stay in this recurring cycle of nothingness. And then even worse, if they for some reason pick an asset that experiences drawdowns that exceed 4 months, right, in this, for our specific example, so let's say maybe 12 months, then what happens is this period here simply becomes larger. And as that area becomes larger, the winning areas become smaller in reference to the larger losses. So you overall become either a break-even trader or even, for most people, a losing trader. Because you do not have the fundamental understanding or the fundamental understanding that there are pockets of action that are worth trading. So instead of trading pockets, small areas of action that make a ton of sense for your system and to make money in, you trade anything and everything. Someone says, your friend calls you up, hey man, look at Tesla. You look at Tesla, you say, ooh, if it hits this or hits this, then you want to be a buyer, to go to there, to be a seller up here, to go here, to hit the equal highs, blah, 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 right? You can analyze the fuck out of anything it doesn't even matter, right? But if you're applying a pattern, which is what a lot of us do, to just random assets at random times 24/7, there's always going to be a trade to take. And if there's always a trade to take on anything you look at, then the trades you're taking are random. And random trades lead to random results. And usually random results over enough time lead to overall losses and overall losing periods that far exceed winning periods, and you end up wondering what you're doing wrong. So this is very important, and the way I want to circle this back to the beginning is that the act of working, the act of choosing to work, but doing so in an area or on an asset or during a time where things are not aligned, means that you are just simply looking to take those random trades. Random trades, random results over time, overall losses, or overall break even. And then you come to me, or you come to someone else, or you come to a video, or you find something that promises you won't be a break-even trader anymore. And it's all bullshit because you go through this exact same thing without ever learning what to do a little bit differently. Right now, to give you a small example of that, one thing that I personally do in my own trading to understand where does it make sense to trade is I approach trading from a 3 time frame perspective. This is number 1. Because when you layer the timeframes that you trade within, then you create barriers that do not allow you to trade unless the whole is aligned. So for instance, if there's a good setup and a perfect pattern and everything looks amazing, but this time frame doesn't signify that it's worth trading, then simply this amazingness no longer exists. And then that amazingness that looked amazing ends up being a choppy and back and forth market that is indecisive in its direction. So just these 2 timeframes right here, just the fact that this perfect entry was stopped by this imperfect other time frame allowed me to skip out on the action that might be complete shit. Simultaneously, similarly, the 3 time frame perspective does the exact same thing for all 3 periods. If this is phenomenal and looks amazing, and this looks just about right, but this is in complete dog shit and moving like complete crap, then there's nothing to do. To give you a phenomenal example of this in front of you, you have something like Bitcoin, something that I've spoken with my team time and time again, something that our own team members have made 6 figures, 7 figures plus in trades from the up and beautiful moves that this thing has experienced. And actually, hopefully I can do this quickly because there's some lag here, which I fucking hate. Lag is not good, especially for a YouTube video. Which especially, like, just to really demonstrate this, rather than just randomly say it to you guys, to really demonstrate this, let me go. Ding. Literally, one of our own members is trading with a prop firm and just got funded with $1 million and made a $30,000 profit individually off of this exact action right here. So it's not like we're just sitting here making up the fact that people are trading and making money and it's just all amazing. No, you have real verifiable results of people that have done this, that are withdrawing payouts, that are making money, that have made 130K plus, etc., right? Because they followed a process. Now, in this specific case, Bitcoin is a great example of something that we've watched for years now. My first trade on this that made me a ton of money was around this area here, and I still remember it because, well, it was a huge eye-opener. I made over 20x reward on a risk unit, and then, you know, the rest is history. And at the same time, for a lot of those that are returning viewers or have been viewing this channel for a while, or even part of the team, because you guys all saw this, one of our very own members did a similar trade in here that made him his first 6-figure trade. He made $100,000 profit on his first time ever on this trade right here. Literally took a trade in the same area, and this thing paid off big time. But the main and important thing here is that a 3 time frame perspective allowed myself, that other member, and other members to participate in the moves that were really clear, while also not having to force and take things in the complete shit areas. So in my specific case, or in this member's specific case, the time frame that he trades is an hourly chart. This is literally the trade that he took himself, and the hourly chart had set up a move here. Now, instead of talking about specific strategy and everything right now, because that's not what this video is for, what I want you to recognize is that, okay, this hourly created a move. The move looked something along these lines: an impulse, a correction, an impulse, correction, and impulse. This is known as the double MB setup in mentfx. It's also known as the ICI, just basically this, where you buy stop into the created demand of a move. Now, the reason it worked so well is because of where it happened in respect to 3 time frames, right? You have the hourly, then you had the, I think he uses a 6 hour, so let me show you a 6 hour. A 6 hour, which, as you can see here, had predefined a move, had then come down, had started to come out of the averages and started to continue a move that it is already part of. Think pockets, right? The move is now continuing. And when it started going sideways, above the averages, very specific, he executed. And similarly, his 3rd time frame, which was a daily time frame, had also demonstrated the bullishness of this exact market, had shown the strength, had shown the fact that the trend was there, and had started to pause or move down to the rising averages without ever being below them. And one of the simplest rules that I use for my 3 time frame perspective is that the highest time frame, simply, if it's above this red line, which is a 20 EMA, you want to be going long and you don't even want to think of anything else. And if it's below the 20 EMA, you want to be going short. So this is just one way that a trader can prevent taking unnecessary trades in unnecessary areas, which is the exact same way that throughout this entire time here, we would be sidelines for shit action and involved in the good action. So just to give you an idea, this is where I was sidelined during this entire time right here. This is when I became active, as price started to come out and started to make sense that there was a trend involved. Right? Now, this is really important because as I circle it back now, if you just simply decide right now that you are ready to work, that you are ready to be a trader, that you're going to put in all the work, and you show up with any given strategy, and remember this arrow, if you show up to that given system or asset at this time, then what is going to happen to you as you're thinking about, I need to work, I need to do this? Well, you're going to take a trade. You're going to find a trade, even if you're super committed, you've super well defined your system, you know what you have to do, you're very committed to trading now, you know trading is all you want to do, you want to make money from trading, so you buy an account, you make a personal, and then you say, on this day, I want to work. Well, if you found yourself in this time, this 4 months on this given asset, and you've found yourself in this area on that asset, What is every single trade that you take, no matter what, on this day or any following day going to result in? That's right. Very likely break even or losses. Remember, think to the fact that we have volatility here. You end up putting yourself into this basket right here, where no matter how hard you want to work now, you're going to be taking losses nonstop that lead you to second guess yourself, that lead you to jump to new strategies, that lead you to lose confidence in your own self, to lose confidence in trading as a whole, right? But the problem stemmed from the fact that you decided you want to work and you associated the act of working with literally showing up and having to take something. Now, the one thing that is extremely different in trading than it is in any other place in the world, I don't think there's a single other industry, maybe there's one other or two others, but the only industry in the world that works this way is trading. And the reason I say that is because for any other industry, if you simply close the fucking office door, turn off the lights, you know, like if I shut the door, boom, turn off the lights, just the screen. All right, it's time to work. I'm going to write a novel, right? Or I'm going to make calls, whatever it might be. Let me turn these two back on. I like those two. Whatever it might be, you actually are doing something, right? You have an act that is happening. You have the brain that's processing information and putting that information into something. Whether you're making calls, whether you're writing an essay, whether you're writing a book, whether you're working from remote work online, whether you're filling out an application, it doesn't matter, right? All of it has some tedious, some action associated with it. Now, the very, very weird thing about trading is that choosing to work and showing up to the market and being here, all right, I'm ready, 6 hours, here I go, in most cases means just looking. That's it. And not acting. It doesn't mean clicking your mouse. It doesn't mean actually entering a trade, right? The act of working ends up simply being you doing nothing, right? And it's very hard for someone to understand very early that, let's say during this period here, I took this many trades, right? During this 90-day period, this 3-month period in front of you, I took 0 trades because there was no alignment for me. Now, one of those alignments, like I said, could be a 3-time frame perspective, and then further alignment can be things like understanding cycles, where you are in a cycle of a move. Those are things that are taught, but again, you can go and check out my channel for that, right? But it's very hard for someone that's relatively new or even intermediate, and in some cases even advanced, because I've seen this from every level, to look at something like this and say, wait, you showed up for 90 days in a row. Every single day that I showed up, I simply had to say no, right? That was work in this case, right? So the act of working or deciding to work and being a trader, I want to work, I'm going to make this work, simply means, and more so means, that you're ready to sit on the sidelines, which is hard because there's not any other industry where you can do that. Because in other industries, it's actually a lot easier. If you're someone that's really committed, very dedicated, and you say, I want to work, then someone will give you something to work on. You want to become a professional basketballer? You have something to do. You put on your fucking shoes, you do some stretches, you go to the gym, you go to somewhere where there's a basketball hoop, and you start shooting. Then you can play games, and you can play games between people. You always have an action that you are doing. Most of trading profitably is actually becoming a professional at inaction, right? It's almost weird. Like, you can imagine if you and me had a call right now, let's say one-on-one. Just imagine for a second that we're sitting together one-on-one and you come to me and you're like, I need to learn how to trade. I need to do this right now. I'm super committed, right? Imagine if the first thing I said to you is, okay, right, I want you to show up every day and I want you to sit like this at your computer, and I just want you just to watch the market for like 6 hours a day. Now, this is not the way to get profitable at all. But the point is, a lot of traders are just professional inaction takers, which is a weird thing to hear, right? It's like, you need to be a professional lazy motherfucker. You can't do stuff, but you have to be ready to pounce when the stuff is amazing, right? When stuff looks phenomenal, when things look really good, you need to be there to pounce on that opportunity. When things look really good, you have to be able to pounce on that opportunity and then be okay with the outcome. So in this case, I was really happy with this opportunity. I was at break even, and then it gapped down for a little loss, but that's okay. That's neither here nor there. And then this can do the same thing, but hopefully this starts a little move higher. I even have a little alert set for where I want to start partialing. But you're a professional in-action taker as a trader, right? And the act of deciding to work is not going to work for you in trading. Those of you that have shown up and said, I'm really committed now, I want to be a trader, I'm going to do all the work I can every single day, aren't going to make it as traders. But that's if the work that you're doing is associated with actually taking trades every day. That's the little caveat, right? It's not about taking the trade. It's about the work that you're going to be doing now is going to be completely revolved around understanding the buffers to a trade, to an entry, understanding where you are in a cycle or a move, right? And then using that to frame whether it makes sense to trade. And then your real work when it comes to trading is actually going to be professional in action. It's going to be the ability to show up to this market and say, I can't take this anymore because it's no longer the kind of setup that makes sense to me. And then as it makes its breakdown, or in this case, as I call it, a flush, and starts to build a containment line, to be waiting and willing to execute if it sets up. And that's exactly what I did yesterday. This trade was from yesterday on Monday. Today is Tuesday at the time of me recording this. This is the trade I took, and it ended up being, well, at the moment, it's nothing. I actually made no money on this yet, but currently it's starting to look really good, and we'll see where it takes us. So no matter who you are, don't think that you can just randomly decide that you're going to work hard as a live trader. That's not how it works. And if you think it is, working hard as a live trader and just starting to take things is going to very likely lead to, over time, large losses. Now, if you're lucky enough, you might choose to do the work, and you show up during a time like this where you get accepted for the work you're doing now or for the trades you're taking. But what you're now missing is that the money you're starting to make is not because you chose to work, it's because you're executing in a good context. This is something that I teach as well. Executing in a good context is the entire framework of profitable trading, of course, right? If you execute in good context, you're going to make money. If you don't know what a good context is, you're going to have random results lead to random trades, blah, 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 you lose, right? So instead of dropping yourself in randomly and saying, I'm going to work, I'm going to be a fucking trader, allow yourself to recognize that most of trading is inaction, professional inaction. Recognize that doing the work happens way before you ever hop on a live chart. And remember that if you're on a live chart, you're not here to do work. You're here to sit on the side until a trade shows up. And that's how you'll make money in trading. And you can apply this to any system that you've ever learned. And if you want to learn more, check below. Or if you're already ready to get funded, check out the funding link or whatever. All right. So thank you guys. I'll see you all.